Let's talk Tanya for the 9th of Kislev. Over the last days, we've talked about doing mitzvahs, also learning about mitzvahs, and how this is the way to create a connection with Hashem. And we've discussed at least 5 different reasons why doing mitzvahs with physical objects is so important. And that's the purpose why we were created. And this is the ultimate way how to create a connection with Hashem and a relationship with Hashem. In today's Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is going to go back to the very first idea which we discussed in this chapter, which is that when we do mitzvahs with a physical object over here in this world, we are actually able to bring additional and higher and greater lights into the godly world of Atzilus. And the Alter Rebbe asks, how does that make sense? You have your physical object, whether it's an animal hide, whether it's an esrog, whatever it may be. You're using it for a mitzvah. That physical object, after all, is an object that is klipa. The godliness within it, at the very least, before I did the mitzvah, was uncovered, and even after I did the mitzvah. How revealed is the godliness? And we're saying that by doing a mitzvah with this physical object, I'm adding light, godly energy into the divine world of Atzilus. How does that work? So the Alter Rebbe reminds us something we've spoken about in the past, which is that the sparks in this world are higher. Their source is higher than the source of the world of Atzilus. Alter Rebbe uses Kabbalistic language over here, as he does in this entire chapter and this whole segment of Kuntes. And if you're following the Kabbalah, the sparks in the physical world, they come from the name of Sag, as opposed to the world of Atzilus is rooted in the name of Ma, and Sag is rooted in the eyes of Ak, whereas Ma is rooted in the forehead of Ak. But Kabbalah aside, all we need to understand is the sparks and the physical objects in this world are rooted higher than the godliness in the world of Atzilus. That doesn't really help us though, because at the end of the day, even if their source is higher, they're not higher. They're part of our world, and the world of Atzilus is higher than anything in our world. So Alter Rebbe says the analogy to help us understand this is the analogy of planting, an analogy that Alter Rebbe has used before. You take a seed, you plant it in the ground, a tree grows. Where does that tree come from? It doesn't come from the seed because there is no tree in the seed. So what happens is that this seed, you throw it into the ground. The ground has what's called the koyach hatzemeach. It has the natural ability to be able to grow things. And this seed, so to say, let's say you throw an apple seed into the ground that's, hey, apple tree. And the ground responds and an apple tree grows over there. The seed itself rots. It's not that the seed itself becomes the tree, but the seed, so to say, stimulates the ground so that the ground now grows an apple tree. How does the seed have the power to stimulate the koyach hatzemeach, the power of growth within the land? And the answer is because where did this seed come from? This seed comes from an apple tree, and that apple tree ultimately comes from the koyach hatzemeach, the faculty of growth which is within the ground. So because the koyach hatzemeach is the source of the seed has the ability to stimulate its source to be able to grow now a tree on its own. The same thing is also over here. When I do a mitzvah with a physical object, the spark over here, it's not that the spark is higher than the world of Atzilus, but the spark, because it is sourced in the higher world of Tayu, therefore it is able to, so to say, evoke its source, and then from its source comes that higher light, which now enters into the world of Atzilus. This is true when I do a mitzvah, and I elevate that spark, and that elevated spark now stimulates again its source. It's also true when I study Torah about a mitzvah, because as we explained, every time if I learn about doing a mitzvah, it's as if I've done the mitzvah. So it's as if I've taken a physical object and the spark within it and elevated it, which has the same effect. However, the Alter Rebbe points out, it would seem that this only works when I'm studying about a positive mitzvah. Let's say I'm studying the mitzvah of mezuzah, the mitzvah of eating matzah, the mitzvah of esrog, because then it's as if I've done the mitzvah. What about if I'm studying about a mitzvah shleisasa, a negative mitzvah? I'm studying about not eating chametz on Pesach. Not eating chametz on Pesach doesn't elevate anything, it would seem. And the same thing is also studying the Torah about not eating chametz also. It wouldn't elevate anything, because even if it's considered as if I've done that mitzvah, but it's a mitzvah of abstinence, so I didn't accomplish anything. So it would seem, the Alter Rebbe says, that what we're talking about over here, the idea of elevating sparks and adding light in the world of Atzilus, only applies when I'm studying about a positive mitzvah. That's what Alter Rebbe says over here. In the next chapter of Kuntes, and Alter Rebbe will explain how actually we elevate sparks even through studying about a negative mitzvah. We'll get there, Emir Hashem, when we get there. But everything we've talked about up until this point, we've talked about the importance of studying Torah, because when I study Torah, it's as if I'm studying about the doing of a mitzvah. It's as if I've done the mitzvah. I'm elevating the sparks. And tomorrow's Tanya Alter Rebbe is going to say, actually, in studying Torah, it has value, an advantage in and of itself, even if I am not studying about a mitzvah, even if I'm not elevating any sparks. By doing that, as we will find out, God willing, in tomorrow's Tanya.